Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest narration of the web series The Princess and the Human. If you are new to the series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Book 1, Chapter 26. Don't Sweat It. I'm hungry, Kaiten whined as they kept plodding through the forest. He had no idea how long he'd been following Nadine, but it was certainly past the time for a last meal by now. I bought some Guthrie fruits there in the shuttle. You can have them once we get back, but I told you from the start that this trip would take a while. But not this long, he panted. Also, my legs hurt. Kaiten definitely didn't consider himself unathletic. He frequently climbed and ran, but he had never been just walking for this long, and it wasn't just his legs. He was out of breath, and his entire body felt hot. Well, this could have been over already, but you had to startle the Kariaka. Nadine seemed to be completely unfazed by the long walk. While she did look a bit different, her face was slightly redder, and glistening drops of some strange liquid had started to appear on her skin. She showed no signs of actual exhaustion. By now, Kaiten no longer doubted her claims of high endurance. But despite her dismissive tone, the alien girl stopped and turned around. How about you two? She asked the gods. Don't worry about us, milady. We can still go on. While the two seemed in better shape than Kaiten, they were trained soldiers after all. Their exhaustion was still noticeable. I see. We're going back. Finally. Wait. No. Going back. That means walking the same distance again. First once. I'm not going to survive that. But before he could say anything, Nadine turned her back towards Kaiten and squatted down and held her arms at a strange angle. All right. Piggyback. What? Back? Kaiten asked, cocking his head in confusion. What are you doing? Waiting for you to get on. Get on with what? She stood up and looked at him, raising one of the patches of hair that grew above her eyes. Were you never carried? Yes, when I was a kid. You're still a kid. So are you. At least he thought that she was. He did at least remember overhearing his sister and Doctor calling her a child. Yeah, I am. Your point? A few seconds of silence followed, after which she sighed. Kaiten, look, staying here is not an option. Either I carry you back to the shuttle, or you walk. What'll it be? What do you mean, gone? Silvani asked, much louder than planned. The ambassador of Taistri had just left. Bo's shuttle was out of sight, and the princess thought the stress was over, at least for today. But right then, Mahito came running and dropped this bombshell. I mean, that we can't find him, Your Highness. The head maid explained. Well, we admittedly kept the search discreet so our guests wouldn't notice. He couldn't be this elusive. But as it stands, your brother was served first meal and was not seen again afterwards. Could he be hiding somewhere? He is quite good at that. Certainly, the maid acknowledged. However, he usually only does that for a short while in order to pull off some prank or sneak somewhere he's not supposed to be. Not the entire day. Plus, we checked all the prohibited places he likes to go. And he also hasn't done anything today that would be a reason to hide from us. At least nothing that I'm aware of. And even if, he definitely wouldn't miss the last meal. Well, wasn't that just great? Where could Kaiten be before the ambassador arrived? Silvani had told him to not show himself to her, so maybe... Could he have left the palace? If he did, he didn't use any of the gates. None of the guards saw him. We also went to the shuttle hangar, but he didn't request a flight either. Unless we have a significant breach in our security, he must still be around. Did you check the kitchen? I actually was waiting there until now. I was sure he would show up. Are any guards missing? By the first ones, he should at least be smart enough to not go without an escort. Only 2, but I was informed that they were accompanying Lady Nadine. Nadine? Oh, right, I remember. She wanted to go hunting today. Wait, could he maybe have gone with her? Mahito was silent for a moment. I can't rule out that possibility. Considering all realistic options, that is the only one left, but that would be alarming in and of itself. 2 high-priority targets are way too much for just 2 guards. Silvani let out a sigh of relief. Don't worry. You should have seen what happened on the Star Treader. Search the palace and the gardens again, just to be sure. But if he really is with Nadine, then his security shouldn't be of concern. It might sound hard to believe, but we can trust that he is safe with her." Something was wrong. However, Kaiten couldn't really put his finger on what exactly. The situation as a total was strange, sure, but it was not what felt wrong. Sure, being carried was a bit embarrassing at his age. After all, he was almost 5 cycles old. However, the way Nadine carried him was different, so that didn't count. He was sitting on her back, legs resting against her arms, while he held onto her shoulders to balance himself. It was also a showcase of the alien girl's strength. Kaiten was certain that he wouldn't be able to carry someone his own height, yet Nadine did so with seemingly no effort. That meant that she not only was strong compared to the Veneria size, but was strong compared to any Veneri. Not that he was so heavy an adult couldn't carry him, but surely not as nonchalantly as she did. Another interesting thing about Nadine was her soft skin. He knew there were races in the Alliance that lacked a shell, but this was the first time he had had such contact with one. While Nadine's clothing covered up more of her body than his did, most of her back was still free. So he could feel how it slightly gave under his weight. He could feel hard things beneath it, probably what she had instead of a shell. What was that called again? As she walked, he could also feel some things shifting and move under her skin. Were those muscles? Then there was a strange liquid. It had started to appear on her skin after they had walked for a while, in sync with her face getting redder. It felt weird when he touched it first time, but after sitting on her back for some time, he didn't mind that it was there anymore. On the contrary. The long walk had made his body turn quite hot, but wherever the liquid was on him, that part of his body was cooled off quickly. All of that was bizarre for sure, but none of it was what felt wrong. In fact, he didn't feel like he could complain at all. The forest had been interesting at first, but they hadn't met a single other animal after the first one, so it had grown boring quickly. But that was no longer a problem, since they were going back. Neither was his exhaustion, since Nadine was carrying him, and sure, he was hungry, but he would get something to eat soon as... Wait, you said you had Guthrie fruits in the shuttle, right? Yes. Didn't you say that you didn't bring food with you? No, I said the freezer wasn't for bringing food with me. Had she really said that? Well, it didn't really matter in the end. No, that wasn't what was bugging him either. But something was off. He couldn't shake off the feeling, but what? Sure, things weren't ideal, but Nadine did her best to... Nadine, that was the problem. She'd come here to find things that she needed and couldn't acquire by just buying them. This wasn't a fun trip for her. He just insisted on coming with her. But she had said it was fine, right? She said she didn't mind. That didn't change the result, though. He had made it about him. But what now? I can't just make the Kariaka come back. What he could do, though... Hey, he started, his voice so weak that it nearly failed him. It was almost as if he subconsciously didn't want her to hear him. If so, his subconscious clearly forgot the alien girl's insanely good hearing. Yes, I'm sorry. What for? She asked. And while it was possible that it was due to the translator, she didn't sound like she meant that sarcastically. Well, for this, if I had stayed in the palace, you would already have your food and be on your way home. A moment of silence followed before Nadine took a deep breath and answered. What happened was, unfortunate. But despite what I said, I'm not blaming you. I've never hunted before, so I honestly didn't expect to succeed first try. Also, I just did a few test throws with the boomerang to get warm with it, so chances are that I would have missed it anyway. Not to mention that you aren't the only one who is exhausted. Rinkus and Coria are as well. Who? Our guards. She even knows their names? Anyway, unlike you, they wouldn't have voiced their exhaustion in time. And I probably wouldn't have noticed it until it was being too late. They would have tried to keep up with me without thinking of saving strength for the walk back. Then she raised her voice a little. Which was really stupid, by the way. I don't know your limits. You have to tell me something like that. If you don't want to inconvenience me, think about what you two collapsing would have spelled. So yeah, from that perspective, you actually did something good. Anyway, it is what it is. So don't sweat it. Don't what? Sweat? Right. You don't do that. Don't think about it. It's just a figure of speech. But if you want to know, remember what I said about regulating my body temperature. Sweat is, Sweat. She abruptly came to a halt. Fuck! End of chapter. I'd quickly like to thank the T5 peeps: Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Bushmaster 177, HenryTheRed, Casper Arnholtz, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Elijah Silvercross, Dragzoon W.R.E, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.